It was a spicy day in the market yesterday and very, very bloody. We are continuing the seasonality that we see. And I'm going to be showing you guys that just in a second to show you how this downtrend can continue. But so much happened and you don't want to miss out on anything or you might lose money. So let's get started. So man, stocks are red. And honestly, let's go to the weekly to look at it a little bit more. We got Apple down 6%. Meta, Microsoft, they still did pretty good during earnings, but we do see some of these stocks giving some of those back. Nvidia up 0.06%. Not really, honestly, not really that much, but not as much as we've seen in the past. But we are red overall for a lot, except for like health and technologies, staples, and stuff like that. But let's get into the SPY overall and show you guys how we are moving because look at this, man. We started, July 31st to like to August 1st. And then if we go back to seasonality, we got around, August 1st, we had a big dip. But the good thing with this is that we did have a big V-shaped recovery and it kind of recovered around 12th of August. But keep in mind that for this 12th of August, we do have the China tariffs. I think that's when the deadline ends. So we might either get a deal and then continue upwards, maybe get a pause as well. So honestly, just depends on how the August 12th deadline does go, but you can potentially make some money then. But it normally ends around the 8th, and that's when you can buy call options. And we reach back to all-time highs once again. So with that being said, this recent dip that we had in the past, if I zoom out just a little bit more to kind of show you guys this V-shaped recovery that we had previously, we can see that we did come back a decent amount. And if you guys were into these plays, you guys made a lot of money. And this is just lining you guys up for a good opportunity. I don't know how far we can fall, but we can probably see it below that 600 level, maybe at the 573, maybe even a little bit lower, maybe 550. But this will be a good opportunity to load up and get some long-term options. That's what I'm going to be personally scoping out. But with that being said, man, let's talk about this week. Get prepped. Get you guys some sports and resistance towards the end of the video and some plays. But first off, let's talk about some news and what all's going on. So we had a huge miss on the jobs reports. We've added nearly 73,000 jobs compared to the already weak estimate of 100,000. The job numbers for June and May was revised down to 258,000, and that's also less jobs as well. The job data is looking pretty weak and in a downtrend overall, and that's not really that good. But after all this falsified data and stuff like that, we've seen Trump fire. And then this was a headline that everybody definitely seen and everybody was watching. But Trump fires the labor statistics commissioner hours after disappointing the job numbers. And he did have a post on Truth Social overall. So basically, we did see things on this after the data came out. But to fire them in the same day is kind of insane. Like literally hours after this. Honestly, that was a headline that I seen that kind of amazed me. But he also came out saying that the economy is strong and adding more pressure on Jerome overall to cut rates because honestly, this is a data point that he watches. He even said it himself. So maybe we might see a rate cut in September, but we're going to be showing you guys more on that a little bit later as well. And something else that came out, we seen after the firing happened, we seen a Fed person resign. This is going to add a lot of pressure. We might either see Jerome resign as well and or cut rates, but this gives Trump the opening to reshape the Fed overall, which is kind of insane really to think about. So now is insane. Now we have a 89 to 90% chance of a Fed rate cut in September, which can be bullish overall for the markets. With that all being said, this one was the one from like a couple days ago when we had the Fed, the FOMC meeting, and literally it dropped down to 45 to 55%. And now we are at literally 89% on this one, which is kind of insane now, the way it just jumped up, So honestly, man, this is amazing. And I kind of want to see what happens. And if we do get a rate cut and or is Jerome just going to make excuses once again? So we will see. First link in the description below, I have a bunch of courses to help you guys become more profitable. I have a long-term that gives you guys 40 free stocks to outperform the S&P 500, especially in this time. And I also have, how to read charts, basic beginner things for trading overall, and how to make money off of $0 on your computer. So go check out these courses with that code down below. You guys can get 50% off and the courses are already relatively cheap. Another thing, man, we are in a neutral zone overall for the fear and greed index. And starting off this week, we were in extreme greed, which is kind of insane to kind of like move this much So we are looking like we getting a lot of selling pressure and a lot more fear into the market overall. So keep that in mind for this sell off that might happen and might get bigger. So for this week, we're not really starting off with big data. We do have factory orders on Monday. Tuesday, we have the trade deficit, some PMI and ISM. Wednesday, literally nothing, kind of a chill Wednesday to say compared to this Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we have initial jobless claims, productivity, wholesale inventories, consumer credit, and on Friday, we have nothing. But Thursday is going to be a little bit of a big day. And then maybe the PMI on Tuesday can maybe move the markets overall. So keep that in mind. So before we talk about earnings from last week and yesterday, let's talk about next week's earnings. So one that I'm pumped about is Palantir. Palantir has been running up a decent amount. So keep this one on your radar because we can have a continuation, especially it being on Monday, man. You can have the rest of the week like basically continue rallying for the rest of the week. And this can show some other stocks going up like Nvidia, AMD, and we do got AMD on Tuesday, but this one can move other AI stocks as well. So I'm pumped to see how Palantir moves overall. We got Hims and Hers and some other ones that I'm not really big into, but if you guys want, you guys can screenshot this list. On Tuesday, we have Pfizer, Caterpillar, BP, some other ones. And then, of course, Tuesday, we have AMD, Supermicro. These two are probably going to move a little bit, and those are what I'm going to be watching overall. On Wednesday, you got Uber, Shopify, and honestly, maybe McDonald's too. I got some McDonald's in my long term. And then afterwards, it's not really anything big. Maybe DraftKings for those gamblers out there. And then on Thursday, man, we got D Wave, Celsius, we got Lilly, and then some other ones. Sony. Sony might move. I don't even know. I don't really see Sony out that much. Soundhound AI, if you guys are into that. Soundhound can maybe move off of this. We could probably make a break, but honestly, man, I haven't seen Soundhound move in a while. And on Friday, we got Tempest and some other ones. But honestly, man, the big things is probably going to be AMD and Palantir. And honestly, that's all I'm really watching. But comment down below what you guys are watching for the earnings calendar. So we are kind of looking like on Hood, man. We had the earnings on Wednesday, but we look like we did have a little bit of a sell off, but it is kind of coming back a little bit, but did fall down a decent amount. So watch Hood and have that on your radar. I have this on my long term and I'm up like 120%. I'm going to be doing a update tomorrow. So if you guys are interested in the long term, if you guys want to add a long term and start basically like making a long term, which is good. You guys can watch that video for tomorrow. Apple as well, man. Apple, we did rally up. We did beat some expectations, but we sold off soon after that. It's probably just this August sell off, but Apple is going to be a stock that I'm going to be watching to buy the dip on once around maybe August 8th or 10th or something like that. This is one that I'm going to be buying the dip on, especially if you get some good China news. This could potentially move Apple upwards even more. They're talking a little bit more about AI too, so we might get some good news on that overall. So we did have a good earnings for Microsoft and Meta, but we are looking like we're having a bigger sell-off overall. You could have made money to the upside and to the downside on Microsoft and Meta, because Meta is going to the downside too, basically just filling the gaps back downward. So for Meta, we still have another big gap to fill downwards if we keep on selling off. Microsoft as well, we do have a little bit more to go if the gap is going to become filled some more, especially with this sell-off. I said sell-off probably like 100 times. We do have Bitcoin also going down a decent amount, $113,000. So with that being said, some stocks that you could trade to the downside with this, and especially with the Fed stuff and the job numbers, it is bringing it down overall. What I like to watch is indeed going to be MSTR. MSTR, they just have a big holdings, and honestly, man, with Bitcoin price going down, this is going to sell off. It's basically an enhanced Bitcoin, basically. And then the other one is going to be Coinbase. Coinbase sold off a decent amount. And last but not least, IBIT. This one is a great one to stock. It's an ETF that moves with Bitcoin. And honestly, the options are still relatively cheap. And especially with this sell-off, man, you can make a decent amount of money off this. So I do recommend trading the downside on Bitcoin overall. And honestly, just have your patience. Next thing is indeed probably going to be watching, or what I'm going to be watching around August 8th to 10th. I got some extra cash. I might load up on some XRP. A lot of people love XRP, so I'm personally going to be loading up some, but I'm going to be probably watching like that 2.5 to like that low twos if we can. So maybe if we can get a greater sell off on this, I might scoop up at $2 level for this. Next one is going to be Tesla. I've been watching that $3 level low key, but since we're in this sell off and kind of a more of like a bear sentiment right now, I was personally watching that 300 to buy a call option. I mean, if you did it on Friday, you could have played it and made a decent amount of money, 300 to like 308. That would have been a decent return. But with that being said, man, previously we had that a couple days ago and we went from 300 to like 330 almost. So that would have been a great return as well. But I'm personally watching at 300 level, but I'm not really gonna play any calls until like later on, until the market looks bullish again. But do watch that 300 level, and if we break down even more, maybe 290 to like that 280, you might be able to play some better plays like on Tesla overall. But right now, it's not looking too good, and we got some bad news. But for Apple, man, I'm personally having my patience, but that 200 level is going to be a key level to watch. If we break below that, though, I'm going to be looking at that 195 to that 190. If you get down to 190, I'm going to be loading up on my long term some more. But with that being said, if we do start breaking down, I'm gonna be looking for a long term call option. All of my call options though, I'm gonna be having my patience. I'm not gonna be playing it early. And honestly, man, depending on how Apple moves, if we like bounce off that 200 and then maybe make a bounce up, I might play like a short term call, like maybe like a day trade call. But that's about it, literally. But with that being said, please take your time and have your patience. NIFDA, man, we're falling down even more, and we're probably going to be lower. And honestly, this could be your opportunity. Load up on NIFDA for your long term, and or even some longer term option plays, maybe like a month out to 2 months out. Especially, man, like ending of August, we do normally have that V-shaped recovery, and if it happens again, we're kind of forming that downward trend. So if it can form a V-shaped recovery, this can look good for a long term play. But with that being said, man, good luck trading, man. Honestly, take your time trading. We will have that opportunity to buy another dip and have another V-shaped recovery, and you can make money both ways. Put options right now and then call options when the market decides to turn around. I'm not really looking at the 8th to the 12th, but I am looking around that time to see if we can start rallying back up. Because honestly, man, the market has been moving like basically with history, basically, especially with the data. Second presidency, you see that the markets are normally down in August, and September is also bearish as well. So for those long-term calls, just sell when you decide to sell, but just have like a sell order, like a price that you want to sell it at, basically, so you can get out in time. With that all being said, smash the like button, subscribe. Check out that first link in the description below so you guys can learn how to trade efficiently. But smash the like button, subscribe. Let's get to 500 subs, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.